Hello, 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 welcome back to Hunter Tune. Today we are continuing on this eBay Turbo Civic. And if you guys remember watching the last video, I mentioned that there was a check engine light that came on and the tachometer did a little bit of jumping around. Well, today I come out here and I was gonna pull it onto the dyno and it doesn't start. Like I cranked and cranked and cranked. Nothing, and then the check engine light came back on while I was cranking. So I'm going to show you guys quick, to start this video off, how to check the engine light on your chipped ECU car. I actually have videos on this already, but I'm going to show you again. So in the kick panel down here, you can see that there's actually a brown and black connector, or a blue connector with brown and black wires. And you can see that I have a red wire jumping those two together. Now what that does, when the key is on and the check engine light is present, you jump those, and then on the dash you're going to get a series of flashes. So you can see that it's flashing at me here. We're going to count them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. We're going to see if the next one is the same. 2, 3, 4, 8. Okay, so sometimes if there's more than one code present, it will actually flash you two different codes. So you have to count the flashes, wait for the next sequence to come, and sometimes it'll be a different amount of flashes. Maybe the next one would be 4 or 3, or one long flash means 10 and the short burst flashes like you see here mean 1. So if it goes long, quick, quick, that would mean 12, and if it just goes click, click, or quick, quick, it would be 2. So this code is code 8, and just as I expected, distributor issue. So this code is actually the top dead center sensor, which is located inside the distributor, and we're going to try to fix that today. And one way that you can find the codes is you can just Google Honda OBD1 codes or whatever. This is Axle Addict, and you can go through here and it lists all the different common Honda codes for OBD1 ECUs, which if you guys are tuning an 88 through 2000 Honda Civic, more than likely you're using an OBD1 computer. So this will work with any of those cars. They'll all have this connector down there that you can jump, and we can check through all the codes. Code 8, top dead center sensor. So usually, we're gonna cross our fingers here, usually these codes are a wiring issue. Sometimes it is the distributor itself. The guy actually reached out to me and he said that he purchased this distributor from AutoZone last year, so he doesn't think it's bad. The AutoZone and O'Reilly's distributors really aren't bad. They're just expensive. I think they're like 200 bucks or something for these Honda distributors, but more than likely it's okay. We're hoping the distributor is okay. So we're gonna check other things to get this code sorted out. We're gonna go and start here at the distributor in the engine bay, and we're going to make sure that everything is nice and secure plugged in, which it appears to be, and this wiring harness out here doesn't seem to be modified or anything like that, so there's no cut wires or anything up here that I can see. Most of this harness looks stock. So we're going to move on the inside of the car where there is some modified wiring, and that's at the ECU at the jumper harness. So you can see down here we do have quite a few connections that are like taped up, and they have you know, butt connectors on them and stuff like that. So what we're going to do is we're going to source whatever pin is for the top dead center sensor coming off of this ECU. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to Google the OBD1 ECU wiring pinout, and we're going to find out what wire coming out of the ECU is the top dead center wire. And then we're going to trace that in the jumper harness and make sure that it didn't get cut or it's got a bad connection or something like that. Like I said, we, on this car, especially, the rest of the harness going up into the engine bay all looks uncut. So I'm gonna assume that we have wiring issues here at the part that was modified. Now, if this was an EF Civic, more than likely the whole harness is garbage, because EF Civics are just, I don't know why, but they're just known for wiring problems by the ECU, because a lot of those cars came with the dual point fuel injection, and a lot of guys convert them to multi-port, and they, you know, some of them just aren't wired the best. And those cars are even older than this one, so the wiring condition and stuff of those older Civics, you might have a little bit tougher time. But this one, I'm hoping is fairly easy with the jumper harness, just having an issue here. But we'll check it out and I'll let you know. Okay guys, so I dove into this distributor code a little bit more, and I told you I was gonna check out the jumper harness. So I came down here. Let me turn on my Astro tool. These guys actually sent me flashlights like a couple years ago, and they still work awesome to this day. So I might have to pick up a couple more of these. They're really nice flashlights. So, anywho, you can see over here, we do have some wires on the jumper harness that were not hooked up or cut or whatever. This one is actually for the electronic load, so it's not gonna make it not start. That was one of the wires on the jumper, and then there's this one right here, which they tied the O2 sensor in, A6 on this pin, and they went to A25 or 24, whatever it is, for the power. So they just like looped power to the O2. I don't know if that was like a little hack to make the check engine go off for the O2 sensor, but that was done. And all the distributor wiring on the jumper harness side of things is untouched. So connector B is where all the distributor wiring is for like the crank sensor and the cam sensor and stuff. And all this was completely untouched. And the car did run. So like I was like, okay, either something else is going on here, because I don't think it's wiring at the ECU, even though some of these cut wires and stuff make it look worse than it is. So I was like, man, I hope it's not like the ECU or something like that. And I did not assume it was the distributor because it was fairly new and it worked yesterday. I started it yesterday, so I was like, well, maybe I'll pull the distributor off, and I'll pull the distributor cap off and see if the sensor is damaged, or maybe the rotor fell off or something like that. Sometimes the parts inside the distributor can rattle themselves out and just wreak havoc on everything in the distributor. So I moved on, and I'm like, man, what could it be? I'm assuming it's wiring, like I said, for the 10th time now, because this was fairly new. So I went in here and I unplugged the distributor. I'm gonna do this here real quick. So I went in here and I unplugged the distributor, and I noticed on the inside of this part of the harness, the side that actually goes to the distributor, I noticed that all the pins inside of here weren't at the same height. So this orange and blue, and this, what is this, blue and green? These two, and then this black wire were all actually lower. I don't know if you can tell, but they were slightly lower in the plug, which means that the wire going into that connector pushed out a little bit, which means it wasn't making connection on this side. So when we plugged this in, couldn't tell anything was wrong, because when you plug it in, this wire pushed up, or those three wires, they pushed up. So what I did is I just took a needle nose, and while it was plugged in, I took all the wires and I pushed them into the plug. So now when I pushed them all back into the plug, car started right back up. So that's fixed. the random distributor code we were having is now alleviated. So let's get this freaking thing on the dyno finally. And this same type of scenario can also happen at your ECU. So at your ECU, the wires that plug into the ECU, this can also happen where the wire will push itself out of the connector and you'll have to push it back into the connector. So you can super glue those wires into the plug, like onto the harness in here, or take some like electrical glue and glue the wiring so they can't pop out of the connector. That is something you can do. Quality jumper harnesses and stuff don't usually have that issue, but that's just something to keep in mind. If you can't find a wire short or something going on, just always check that kind of stuff, guys. So hopefully that helped. And if you still are guaranteed everything is connecting and the wiring is all in the right spot, and this is, I guess I diagnose a certain way. I diagnose a certain way depending on the symptoms of when it stopped running. This one was all of a sudden, I wasn't even driving the car. It was just idling, and then it just quit. So, but if it's a brand new build and you just put everything together and the car hasn't even ran yet, there's a little bit more diagnostic stuff that you have to do in order to figure out some of these little gremlins and issues that you may be having. Like I said, first step first is always to check that engine light, see why it's on. Then you can pinpoint what circuit you're looking for and focus on that circuit alone. So, example, if it's map sensor or distributor, you can focus just on distributor wiring in the car, you know, etc., etc. If it's a power issue and you don't have any power, figure out main power in the car. Grounds, stuff like that. If you got nothing on the dash, check your grounds, all the grounds, and look up schematics, guys. I mean, look up forums, ask on Facebook, stuff like that. The world is your oyster, as they say. I don't even know if that's a saying, but there's so much information out there nowadays, guys, that if you have the will and the drive, you can figure it out. I promise. If I can do it, anybody can. Alright guys, so I know you're waiting to see this little B18 hit the dyno. I'm trying to do videos a little bit different lately, and I hope you guys are okay with it. I hope maybe I can engage with more of you out there by doing these type of videos, but I think I'm going to make this video on its own. Normally, I would start dynoing the car and title the video a certain way, you know, dyno tuning this car or whatever, and these are the things leading up to it. But I think this specifically, trying to figure out gremlins and wiring issues and engine lights on your swapped Honda Civic, I think this is a good video on its own. So if you guys want to keep following this build, or this tune, stay tuned for the next video, which is actually going to be putting it on the dyno and seeing how much power it makes. But I think just having this on its own is a good idea, and hopefully can help some of you guys out there try to figure out some of these little gremlins and stuff on these cars. If you enjoyed it, hit the like button, subscribe. If you guys are new here, welcome. Hit the subscribe button. Lots of Honda content, lots of automotive performance stuff. And go check out HunterTune.com. And have a great night and a better tomorrow, guys. We'll see you later. God bless. Have a great night and a better tomorrow. Bye. See ya. Okay.